Would it be possible to discuss perhaps the historical underpinnings of the European Enlightenment, how it came about, and like I said earlier, we've been told a certain story about the Enlightenment, and what's the truth?
Right. So there were first of all, out of Christianity came the Holy Roman Church and the Holy Roman Empire. The Roman Empire broke into two, right? The western end of the Holy Roman Empire, right? And then the Byzantine end of it, the Orthodox Church. The Holy Roman Empire started not only converting everyone from approximately 300 AD through to 1500 or so. Lithuania, for example, was one of the last ones to go, and so were the Slavs. But the English perhaps were one of the earlier ones. As the Holy Roman Empire tried to rule through all the kings over 1,000 years, it became increasingly impossible for them to convince the people that whatever the Pope said was infallible. Okay, it caused dissensions. It caused, especially the Protestant dissension that came about. That caused intra-religious wars. Okay, they still called themselves Christians, right? But there were a lot of sects that were formed, and they started fighting with each other. And they were really
Church of England, and yes,
right. The Lutheran Church, the Calvinists. There were extremely brutal wars against the Pope and the Holy Roman Church. Approximately 30% of the population was killed as a result of this between the approximately the 1300s and the 1500s, and part of it washed into England as a civil war. And one of the things that happened during the Civil War is Prince Charles and his close advisors had to exile themselves into Paris. And there they met up with the French intellectuals too. And Hobbes came up with this idea that the way to get out of this situation that Europe was in is to come up with this idea of social contracts, and that we no longer require something called a God. Though fine, there is a God, and that is fine. But as far as the affairs of people are concerned, right, we can do it separately. Okay, so he came up with this idea of social contracts where people could interact with each other. Nature was considered completely inert, and it all depended on what people agreed to do and not to do. Okay, so at that point in time, since nature was inert, right, the question came up: who would decide how to interact with nature? Okay, that became a big question in itself. One of the things they found that anarchy, the situation of anarchy that was prevailing for almost 200 years, where people were simply not accepting any authority, was creating a lot of problems about everyone going about their own ways. Okay, that's where the idea of knowledge production being centralized started coming about. Okay, how do we interact with nature? So we have agreed that we will interact with amongst ourselves, and an elite group will decide how we are going to interact with ourselves, right? But still, how do we interact with nature has not been resolved. Right. So the second step then was formation of the Royal Academy of Sciences in 1661, formally, which said from now on, From now on, all science will be done through the Royal Academy of Sciences.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.